They're in a good position.
Yeah.
It was a great contest. It was the perfect lead into a grand final. These are some of these last quarter moments. Mason Cox stood up, took that big contested mark on Taylor late and went back, and we know that he kicked accurately and there was a bit happening, but the Giants didn't go away. The only thing I thought they lost was a bit of their dare, the Giants. Thought they went down the line far too often, but Jesse Hogan's had a big year, has really enhanced his reputation. And then, I mean, these are the moments. We're talking literal centimetres here between going through to a grand final and still side bottom getting back and marking that. And these are the scenes in the final siren, Brownie, where the Collingwood players just, you can see what it means to them.
It was an amazing effort, and you guys are going to go through some of the analysis of how they did that late. But that man there, 8 minutes on the bench when he was the best man on the ground, 11 clearances, 34 disposals, and he found himself on the bench. But Collingwood just know how to do it when it matters late in games. And taking nothing away from the Giants because they played just as good a game. But Collingwood, again, they come out with a close one.
Amazingly, you said a close one. It's happened for 2 years where they've won close ones. They lost.
It's not luck, is it?
No, it's not luck. They lost the prelim last year by a point. But aside from that, they win all the close ones, and they've done it again. And full credit to Craig McRae. This isn't luck. They know what to do. And what they do is they don't want to let the ball out. So they pretend that they're trying to get it out, but they don't, because they don't want the ball in live play. They don't want the ball bubbling out. They'll just have it in there. So they jump on top of each other. They let the ball bubble around without letting it get too far out. So
well, you've done this probably 4 or 5 times this year on this show, and they do it again.
Yeah, and scenario. So you get to a point where it's 43 seconds to go, and again, they lock it in. Watch Mitchell, side bottom doesn't want it to come out, so he tucks it back under him. Another stoppage. And then you get to a point where you go, if we do get it out, there's only one spot we want to take it, and that's out to the wing. You don't want to go direct because there's too many numbers that can come straight back out to you. So you push it out to the wing where it's hard to get score from, and then that was class from Dacos dancing around and getting it forward. So amazing coaching, the scenarios which they do, TJ.
Terrific stuff, and terrific analysis as always. As sure as night follows day, there will be grand final heartbreak, but it's come early for one young man.
Yeah, it comes in the form of Daniel McStay, TJ, who did everything that was asked of him in leaving the Brisbane Lions to go to Collingwood. He kicked 2 goals in this game, and then in the third quarter had that issue with his knee, and it's been diagnosed yesterday as a serious strain to the medial ligament. The club ruled him out officially yesterday once it got the confirmation through the scans of that, and it's a big loss.
They'll miss him,
massive loss.
I mean, he took Taylor, who's been the best defender all year, and he had him on toast in that first quarter, particularly the first half. He could have been the best man on the ground in the first half if he had been able to kick straight. He fumbled a few, McStay, but he clunked a couple as well. He looked really damaging along with Myercheck, and those two all year have been great. Now they miss one.
And the emotion of missing the grand final is one part of it. The other emotion for Daniel McStay is leaving Brisbane Lions, which he'd played at for 8 seasons prior to this year, to then go and watch both teams run out, his new one and his old one, while he's injured and unavailable, having helped get Collingwood there.
Damo, Collingwood offensively haven't been that great since the midway part of the season, but defensively there's none better than the Collingwood Footy Club, and they kept Melbourne to 8 goals and the Giants to 9 goals, and it's defence like this. So Darcy Moore is on Toby Green. Doesn't matter, you've got to go and support, and as a result that allows the third player up to market. They win 1v1s, but they're also smart, like Isaac Quaynor. We saw the Nathan Murphy spoil, Jeremy Howe, Darcy Moore, just huge 1v1 wins, and this is what started the turnaround. I thought they marked really well Giants early in the first half, but after that Collingwood dominated the aerial skills. Again, he's on Toby Green, that doesn't matter. We have to have somebody up to support in the air, and I love this one late in the game. You see Darcy Moore again, he leaves Toby Green, and then when it mattered most in that last quarter, this big moments like this, Isaac Quaynor, one of the most improved players in the game. It's the defence that'll win premierships, and that's where I think Collingwood are the strongest in the game.
All right, and another young pie might have dodged a bullet?
Well, he has. Nick Dacos. He was never going to miss a grand final for what you're about to see here, that being the tackle on Brent Daniels late in the piece. It was a double whammy. Scott Pendlebury contributed to the impact on Daniel, and the fact that he was later, subsequent to that action, scat tested by his own club after a spotter in the arc suggested they take a look at that incident. We'll have a look at that issue itself, TJ, later in the show in Agenda. But again, there was nothing there for the Match Review Office to deem Nick Dacos worthy of being suspended for the grand final.
We don't want to see players missing grand finals for that, but you do wonder if it was the home and away season, whether they would have had a close look at it, and there's the reason why. Because of that, the player being tackled is in a vulnerable position. That's one of the clauses with that they look at with rough conduct. Little opportunity to protect himself. himself an opponent is slung, driven or rotated into the ground with excessive force. So I think in the home and away season that is looked at really closely. I don't want to see anyone miss a grand final, but when it is a big name player and that is not even looked at, I think you question it a little bit.
I'm sure we've seen, to your point, some incidents similar to that have resulted in a sanction this year. So, but I'm absolutely with you too. I'm glad he's available to play in a grand final.
And he will join us a little later on in the program, that being Nick Dacos. Jordan De Goey, didn't he stand and deliver?
He did, and he was a four-quarter performer, aside from those minutes Nate spoke about where he wasn't on because of rotations. They couldn't get him on the field because no one could score, but he was electric. He was dynamic. He was explosive. He was everything you'd hope he would be. He was drafted top 5 for a reason, Jordan De Goey, and he hasn't quite understood in the first part of his career what it requires to be a AFL professional, but he's had an outstanding 2 or 3 years, and probably is it the greatest game he's played for the club.
Career high clearances for the team in a big
13
game.
clearances, 34 disposed on the big stage. You know, they were struggling for a period, and I thought De Goey all day and Dacos from halfway through the second quarter turned that game.
And Lottie, the 2 years they've made the grand final in recent times, 2018 and this year, he has had blinding final series. It was extraordinary in 18.
I was amazed, Lord, at the lack of respect that they... Because he was the one from... It was the first minute of the game where he was winning clearances, and then it's Finn Callaghan or it's Callum Ward. They just didn't understand how dangerous he was being. They didn't give him the respect that he deserves, and I think the Giants will rue that on review.
Dunkley go to him?
Dunkley definitely goes to him this week.
All right, let's talk about the Giants and Toby Green and how much it means to players. Well, they get paid a lot of money, as we know, but when you see these sort of scenes, you realise just how much football and the team and the club means to people. And have a look at that, he's inconsolable. So they'll go away and they'll think about this. They'll remember these moments for the rest of their lives. Prelim finals, you played in the grand final, just some of the moments. Does Toby Green sit there and go, should I have centred that last ball at side-bottom touch? Callum Brown on the wing, should have I tried to go a little bit harder with the football? So their moments, they'll stick with them for a long time. They don't leave you prelims and grand finals.
So let's look at a few of those, Brownie. And you're right. I mean, it's not dramatic to say that you think about these for the rest of your life, particularly if you don't go on and win one. So look at the confusion here. This is Chris. So Ash and Ward are going, who's on him? Like, this is a breakdown of communication. They just let him stand there all alone. Ash has done nothing and he's gone and not played on anyone. He had to get a body. That costs you a goal. You lose this game by 1 point. You take the advantage there from a very relatively easy set shot. You play on, you lose composure, you miss, you lose the game by 1 point. You think about this, Briggs, that's a poor effort in a prelim final. He's dropped a simple mark, you lose the game by a point. Bedford, do you go the drop punt or do you go the tricky snap around your body? There's so many of these. The handball over to Toby Green, walk-in goal late in the third quarter. Ash, the turnover there, that's under no pressure. That goes back. McStay marks the footy and Elliott ends up kicking a goal from the goal square. These are all of these things that for a long time, Brownie, you mentioned this one. Who wants this footy? Is it Markoff, who's playing hungry, wants the opportunity, or is it Brown? He doesn't go, does a little tap on there. That goes back. And this costs you a goal because Taylor, who's the best defender in the game, decides he's going to mark the footy from behind rather than spoil it, and that costs you one. So all of these moments for the next 20, 30 years, these Giants players are going to rue those.
Okay, so disappointment for the Lions, but for the Giants, but obviously Collingwood through to the grand final. And Damo, can I issue a plea to every journalist and media outlet? It's the grand final. It's not the big dance. It's not the big dance, all right? It's that you
No, I'm with you. I can't stand the big dance.
I know we've got ice hockey players in town at the moment, so this is not against you, but we have so many Americanisms have crept into our game. We have defence, we have offence. You've referred to a quarterback before, all right? I mean,
Kane.
you know, and
How dare you, Kane?
No, I heard Gary Lyon do it on SEN one morning. So, please, not the big dance. It's the grand final, and Brisbane are there as well.